Have you ever just felt completely spent? Just utterly exhausted, maybe even afraid, like you have nothing left to give? Well, today, we're going to look into a really powerful story about what it's like to hit rock bottom and to discover God's incredible power to restore us.
So no matter where you are or what you might be carrying on your heart today, I just want to start with a warm greeting. Let's just take a quiet moment together and really open our hearts to what God might want to show us through this story. These are the words of the prophet Elijah. Can you just feel the desperation in that sentence? It's a cry from a place of just absolute loneliness and fear. It's that feeling that everything you've worked for has come crashing down. Now, to really understand how deep this despair was, we have to remember what happened right before this moment. See, Elijah wasn't just some random person. He was a spiritual giant, really at the peak of his power.
Just look at this shocking contrast. It's almost hard to believe. On one side, you've got the hero of Mount Carmel, the man who single-handedly defeated hundreds of false prophets and literally called down fire from heaven. And then, just a little while later, he's a fugitive in the desert, running from the threats of one woman and begging God to just end his life. How does someone go from that incredible high to this crushing low so quickly?
It's really easy to look at a figure like Elijah and see him as something more than human, larger than life. But the Bible makes a really important point that connects his story directly to our own spiritual walks.
Just let that sink in for a second. With all of his power, all the miracles, at his core, Elijah was a human being, just like us. He felt the same emotions, the same weariness, the same fears that we do.
These right here, they're the classic symptoms of spiritual burnout. Does any of this sound familiar? You were once so passionate, but now you're just tired. Prayer suddenly feels like a chore. That fire you once had for spiritual things now feels kind of cold. And all of a sudden, God's past miracles seem so distant, but today's threats feel absolutely overwhelming. This isn't a sign that you failed. It's a shared human experience, something felt even by the greatest prophets. And when this spiritual tiredness hits us, we become vulnerable. And believe me, the enemy has a very specific and a very effective strategy that he uses against us when we're in that state. So the very first thing Elisha did was leave his servant behind and walk a full day's journey into the desert all alone. Now, it's one thing to find solitude to connect with God, but this was different. This was isolation, and it was driven by fear. Elijah wasn't seeking God, he was running away. And that's the trap. The enemy knows that if he can just get us alone, cut off from our community and fellowship, he can defeat us.
And once you're isolated, that's when the lies start to creep in. The first one is often the most crushing. It's that whisper that says, it's over. That feeling that your ministry, your purpose, your joy, it's all finished.
And then another lie follows right on its heels. The enemy whispers that your pain is unique, that nobody else could possibly understand what you're going through. And all that does is deepen the loneliness and push you even further away from the very people who could help you.
And this all leads to the biggest lie of all, the one Elijah himself actually believed and even said to God, I am the only one left. It's the lie that says you are completely, totally, and utterly alone in your faith, alone in your struggle, and alone in your suffering.
But that is not where this story ends. Not even close. The lies of the enemy are powerful, for sure, but God's truth is infinitely more powerful. And his response to Elisha's despair is just one of incredible tenderness and compassion.
You see, while Elijah was crying out, I'm the only one, God was seeing the whole picture. He gently corrected him, revealing, by the way, I have reserved 7,000 in Israel who have not bowed to Baal. This shows us something so profound. Elijah's feeling of loneliness was real, but it wasn't the ultimate truth. He was never, ever really alone. And notice, God's restoration wasn't some instant command to just snap out of it. No, it was a gentle, step-by-step process. First came rest. God let Elijah sleep and sent an angel with food and water because he knew his physical body was exhausted. Then came a journey. He led him to Mount Horeb, the mountain of God. And there, he gave him a new vision, not in an earthquake or a fire, but in a still, small voice. And finally, he gave him a new commission, a future, and a purpose.
So, what does this ancient story mean for you and me, right here, today? Maybe you're feeling a bit tired, a bit overwhelmed, sitting under your own broom tree, so to speak.
So let me ask you this directly. Is the exhaustion you feel right now, this spiritual coldness you might be experiencing, is that the final chapter of your story? Because if we learn anything from Elijah, the answer is a resounding no.
This is the great promise in all of this. Your struggle is not the end. Your life did not end under that broom tree. God sees your burnout not as a final failure, but as a necessary resting place, a place where He can minister to you, strengthen you, and prepare you for everything that is still to come.
So I want to say this to you today, with everything in me. Stand up. Your journey isn't over. God is giving you back the passion and the joy you thought you lost. His hand is upon you right here, right now.
May you feel His strength and His presence and His peace in a powerful way today. May the Lord Himself bless these words. Amen.